Oh, Sadie. Okay, I think we are live now.
Yeah, cool.
Um, Hi. I think some people are tuning in. Francesco Turrisi here, and I'm speaking to James Gabriel Martin. I don't know, what do people call you? James Gabriel, or
James. So Gabriel is actually my middle name, but when I turn to the world of food, there's already a famous chef, James Martin.
oh,
So
really?
to avoid people being incredibly disappointed showing up looking for the other James Martin, I introduced my middle name into things.
So wait, James Martin is not in Ireland, though, is he? This chef?
No, he's a British chef. He was kind of big. He was like a celebrity British chef, maybe in the 2000s. He was on a lot of television. I'm not sure if he does a lot of stuff at the moment now, but he was well known and he had like a line of cookware and stuff. So
I
yeah,
see.
just to avoid confusion, I introduced the middle name.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, where are you right now?
Right now, I am in my house out in Knoll in North County Dublin.
Yeah.
I am very lucky to live on a 120-acre farm at the moment.
Wow.
It's a new place. I've been living here about 6 months. It's actually where I do some of my pop-up dinners here on the estate, out in Whitestown. So for me to be able to be surrounded by countryside and to be surrounded by like green hills and places you can grow your own produce, has been really great and has really kind of I've noticed a difference in my mentality and how I feel just, waking up and being surrounded by country. It's amazing. And I'm not too far from Dublin City as well. So it's been
It's easy
good.
enough to pop in. And I'm going to ask you loads more questions about that, but before, maybe I just want to mention how I came across you, which is actually through one of my previous conversations with Valentina Solfrini, who I understand you know as well.
Yeah.
And you were in the chat. I remember asking you a lot of interesting questions and
Yeah.
talking about food and music as well. So, and then at the end, Valentina told me, who I see, by the way, she's connected here. Ciao, Valentina. That she's saying hello.
Hi,
Uh,
Valentina.
she said, "Oh, you guys could talk, because obviously we're not far from each other. I'm on the opposite end of Dublin, on the
Hmm.
south side, but we haven't managed to meet in person. But I'm sure we will. So this series is very much about just chatting with people that I find interesting. Talking about food, talking about music, and I understand these are very big things in your life. But first of all, maybe can we talk about start from Substack, because obviously that's the platform we're in. You have a page, right? What is it called? Your page, Leviathan.
The Leviathan Journal, I call it. Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? Also, what's the significance of the name Leviathan, which seems very epic?
Yeah, it's very epic. So I suppose I can cover a little bit of everything there. My previous job was as a professional musician and as a photojournalist. So for a long time, I was traveling around the world. I used to write for Lonely Planet. I did a lot
Okay.
and I covered a lot of food, and food has always been a big part of my life. And between that freelance work, I was also a touring musician. And then back in lockdown, when that was announced, that obviously made my jobs incredibly difficult.
Yes.
Overnight, both of my jobs revolved around travel. Um,
Like
so
when you
during
say
that,
photojournalist, it means you went around literally taking photos of
yeah,
places. That's
yes,
what it means.
yes, taking photos, interviewing people, writing about destinations, writing about restaurants. Um, And food has always been very, very important to me since I was a very young child. I was cooking, and my writing centered around food. But overnight, I couldn't travel anymore, so I kind of leaned into the food aspect of things. Ireland, I don't know, were you here during that lockdown period? But like we had one of the most severe, strict lockdowns in the world, so you could only really go to the supermarket. So
Mm.
I just started cooking at home, documenting the dishes, coming up with recipes. I made a little blog, a little Instagram page and a website, and I called it Leviathan because I've always been interested in mythology, folklore, folk music. And there's this story, I think it's in the Bible. I'm not religious, but I just like to read, different mythologies and stories and things, about this gigantic sea serpent that
Yes.
God will one day kill and there'll be this gigantic feast for people. I thought that's really powerful. It's really interesting. And also the word pops out to me in different songs. Uh, the American songwriter Josh Ritter has a song where he uses a line, Leviathan and Lonely. Then there's another band, Midlake, references the book Leviathan about politics. It was always in my head. So at the time, it was very low stakes. I was thinking, I'll just call it this. Little did I know that that project would take off in different forms, and now I'm in a situation where people are always asking, what does that mean? Where does that come from?"
You
Too late to
spent
change
all
the
of your
name.
interviews discussing the word Leviathan. Instead.
Yeah, but so that was the start of that project, and that's evolved over time, which we can chat about. But coming to your other question about Substack, I'm very new to it, and you mentioned Valentina, who I think a few months ago, I put up on my Instagram. Does anyone know much about Substack? I keep hearing it's this great way to stay connected to people, to publish your own work, to build a mailing list. And Valentina very kindly messaged me and kind of gave me the basics of it because it was very new to me. So I'm still getting to grips with it. And it's just where I share some of my writing, some of my video clips from the video series I've been working on. And I found it really great and really engaging. And to come across other creators such as yourself has been wonderful.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just love that it's also a much smaller community, compared to social media. I feel
Yeah,
like you kind of know the people after a while that follow you, and they are there because they care, not because it appears in their feed. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
There used to be that vibe. But just going back to what you were talking about there, the lockdown, it's interesting because for me, there was also a time where kind of passion and interest in food kind of kicked up a different kind of level. Because I mean, I was always interested in food, but it was never like something that I did professionally. I mean, still not now. But at that time, because I was stuck at home and because I couldn't travel back to Italy, which is where I'm from, that's the thing that triggered a lot of the missing home and wanting to recreate some of the stuff that I couldn't. Also, I noticed one thing. I don't know if you noticed the same thing. Back in those days, it was everyone started exporting in a different kind of way. So I could actually have access to certain ingredients, especially from Italy, that I could not previously. Also,
Okay.
because a lot of importers that normally worked only with restaurants, they had to open to the public because they were like struggling. So you could literally order anything online, which I was like so excited about. And and it's fun. It's funny also that you mentioned that it was very strict here because I always thought it wasn't very strict compared to Italy. I don't know
Right.
if you heard the story of Italy. People literally could only go on their balcony. They couldn't even
Yeah.
get out the street. They were there are all these jokes about people in apartment blocks giving each other the same dog to walk 10 times a day. It was
You have
one
to have
of
a
the,
dog to be able to get out. Yeah. No,
I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah, I suppose Ireland didn't have it too bad compared to places like that.
yeah, I was very blessed. I was in Graysons, which is a beautiful place, and the weather was glorious that year.
Yeah.
So could go out to the beach every day. It's 5K range, but it's still like you could definitely go out.
Yeah. And I think your point, it was definitely a reckoning for a lot of people. They were kind of forced to be with themselves, and a lot of people, banana bread became like a meme and like a funny thing that everyone was baking. But it's true that people, for the first time, were forced to slow down and look at the things in their lives that they always had access to, and they always could just go out and go to this type of restaurant. And it did encourage people to start cooking things at home. And as you say, they had access to ingredients that they might not have been able to get before. So I think it has changed people. And I think we're still seeing
Yeah.
um, the results of that today,
For sure. And also, I know so many musicians who literally, after the pandemic, went back on the road like half of the time that they did before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, it was kind of the same. It was like I've been away way too much. There was definitely that reckoning.
Yeah.
You know? But, well, okay. So let's talk about some other things there that you mentioned. So, but did you train as a chef? Did you go to culinary school before or after, or
After I did, um,
after the pandemic?
after the pandemic, yeah.
And where did you go?
I went down to Ballymaloe in
Uh,
Cork, and I did the course there. And the fact that you're able to live on the farm and have access to all the the production of food, and to get a real sense of how these things are done. It's very, very immersive. very
Can
full.
you tell us about it? Because I'm sure a lot of people here are maybe from the States. They don't know exactly what that is. What is Ballymaloe?
Yeah, sure. And it's funny, it's kind of really having a moment right now because a lot of like influencers and celebrities are all now going to do the course, and it's like this really popular thing at the moment. But it's run by the Allen family, Drina Allen, Rachel Allen, and it was started by Myrtle Allen, who is one of the kind of key figures in the Irish food renaissance. Um, Ballymaloo House in Cork was one. I think it was the first kind of country house to open to the public and to, you know, people talk about farm to table these days. They were the first to really do that and to embrace that type of food and to educate people who maybe didn't know at the time about where food comes from and how it's made. And yeah, it's an institution. It's a people come from all over the world. They stay on site in cottages. They live on the farm for 3 months. Every single day, you might be up milking the cows or picking herbs or picking vegetables, and then from day to night, you just have intense cooking courses. And it's what I find really interesting about it is everyone's thrown in together of all different ages, different mentalities. You have some people going who might just be retired and have a passion for food and they want to go.
Yeah.
Might be people like myself who are in their 30s and want to retrain properly. You might have like younger people on a gap year. So it's really interesting mix of people, and that's what I found the most engaging.
And it's 3 months long, you said, right?
Yeah,
And so, but so is the idea that they are also training people to work in professional kitchens? It's like real culinary school, or
yeah. Like by the time you come out, you have what you need to get started in a professional kitchen. It's kind of one of those things where you really get out what you put into it, you know. So for me, when I left, I had never worked in professional kitchens before, so I went around and I kind of did some experience here and there, and I picked up some shifts. And the first professional kitchen I went into was a place in Howth called Mamo.
oh yeah,
Um, and I couldn't have been luckier to meet a nicer bunch of people, very generous with their time, with their knowledge, and then working with someone who'd never actually been in a professional kitchen and was quite slow and was quite intimidated by all that that meant. But yeah, it's been fantastic, and that kind of led to me doing my own project now, where I run my own pop up. Um,
I don't know if
but
it's you or me.
yeah, it's just about gathering knowledge as you go, you know.
Okay. Sorry, I disconnected a bit. I don't know if it was my connection or yours. Um, so I kind of gather that you enjoyed this course, right, in Ballymaloe. You would recommend it? Great experience, or
Yeah, I would. It kind of depends really what people are looking for. It's an investment, definitely.
mm,
So you know, it depends what you're looking to do. For me, I was passionate about food, and I knew I wanted to be able to have the skills to back up this life that I was building towards. I've written about food my entire life. I've been interested in food. I've cooked at home, but I really wanted to upskill to the point where I felt confident in my abilities, you know?
yeah, no, I keep looking at it, going like, oh, imagine that. Wouldn't it be amazing if I had 3 months? Something like that would be my dream for sure.
Yeah, that's the
But
thing.
anyway,
Hard to get the time to invest into it as well.
yeah, exactly. And also the money, I guess, is not that cheap, right? But it's
Yeah,
worth it, you're saying.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah. And but then, I'm curious. So when you actually started your first job in the professional kitchen, did you feel that you were prepared to do it, or is it 100% you learn on the job, that kind of thing?
You still learn on the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Can you
still,
imagine?
yeah. It's still very intimidating. And that's the thing, like, you know, some people they have the time and the money to invest in a culinary course like that. But then there's other people who have just been grinding and
Mm,
cooking in kitchens and learning on the job, and they are the best chefs you'll ever meet, you know? And you
yeah.
can't get better
Yeah.
from those people. Um,
And
it's
so did you
about dedication and putting the time and work into it, I think.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit like being a musician too, in a way, right? Because you can study at all the schools that you want to study, but then doesn't mean you're going to be a great musician or vice versa.
Absolutely. It's this like wonderful mix of natural ability of having um, intuition, and then there's the training or lack of training, and then just the time and being self-taught. Like it's very, and this is where for me the correlation between food and music, it's just I've spent my life thinking about those two things and how similar they are in pretty much every single way. And it's so funny to come across someone like yourself who's doing a project about food and music and making those ties. It's very exciting to see.
Yeah, for me, it was funny because as I became more and more obsessed with talking about food, and because that's just a part of who I am and the way I think, I like to research stuff and really get stuck into the history. And I was very fascinated during the lockdown period about all the history of the food of where my people come from, which is Western Sicily, because it's such a really interesting, multicultural, diverse place with all these connections to the Mediterranean, to North Africa. And the more I kind of dug into it, the more I realized that everything is exactly the same as in music, especially when you look at traditional music and traditional food, like oral culture, the way that it gets communicated, the way it keeps constantly rolling and modifying itself, and but at the same time, also this discourse, there's so many people who are obsessed about things being traditional. They have to be exactly in one way, which is exactly not the way it happens in reality when it comes to actual tradition. So I just kept thinking about, oh my God, this is exactly the same. And I guess ultimately it says a lot about oral culture, I think, when you really connect it in that way, when it's oral, when it's like traditional music and traditional cuisine, at least. Then of course there are many other facets, but that was the thing that kind of triggered this idea. And that was one. The other one was the fact that I love cooking as a multisensorial experience, which I think is music is also. We tend to concentrate on thinking we just use our ears to play music and we just use our taste to cook, but it's really not true, right? We use everything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you listen to sound so much when you're in the kitchen as well, right? It's like your ears are so important too, as tact as everything else. And I feel with music is a similar thing. There was the idea behind the concept of cooking by ear. That's why I called it cooking by ear, because I loved that idea. But yeah, so tell me about your music then. So you said you were working as a professional musician. What does that mean? Tell me, what have you been doing?
I used to be in a band. Myself, and my brother were in a kind of, we called it folk, but it was kind of more folk singer songwriter leaned into kind of at times into more indie music, but there's a folk basis of it always. And my main instrument would be banjo and mandolin. So we toured extensively. And as you know, music is one of those things where it's really an investment. So we spent years we started out playing. I was in Cork recently, doing some research for for the food project I'm doing. And I walked by the first music venue we played there. It was a metal bar called Fred Zeppelin's. And I was laughing to myself that we played to one person, which was the janitor who came in to listen to us. But like music's one of those things where it's just you're investing time, and by nearly 10 years into it, we had established ourselves as being able to tour professionally through Europe and to play to crowds who were interested in what we're doing. Um, and yeah, we were in the midst of that when lockdown was announced. So we had recorded our second album called Tides. Um,
Is
up-
that the one that you sent to me?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to it. It's great, by the way. Sounds great. So, but are you singing in that, or is it your brother?
My brother on that album, my brother's doing most of the main vocals, and I'm doing the harmony.
Okay.
On our
And he's
first
playing
album,
banjo. Yeah. And he's playing guitar, or
he's playing guitar, yeah, and I did kind of banjo, mandolin, piano, and all the other bits on it.
sounds great. Yeah. So maybe just tell people again if they want to check it out. What is the name of the album and the name of the band?
The band was called Cry Monster Cry, and the album is called Tides.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were doing that, and we had invested a lot of time into this album. It was ready to go. We had a tour in Europe booked, and I had managed to connect with European bookers, and we had done the Late Late Show, and off the back of that, the Irish tour was selling well, and then just overnight it was lockdown announced, and then everything crumbled. And I don't know if there's any musicians or tour musicians like watching this or will watch it later, but like the feeling of the loss of momentum is such a thing in music. You always are feeling like I have to go back to that town to play. I have to release a new single. I have to do this. I have to do that. And then when that crumbles, it was just it
And
was horrible.
especially the momentum of that, where you guys were literally just about to hit it. I feel so bad because I know so many people that were in that exact position. Because, like you said, it's a constant, like you're constantly rolling, going, I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do
Yeah.
this. But when you're literally about to start something and the album is out and that happens, it's like you can't get back there.
It's a very funny thing. I did have this feeling that over through after years of kind of trying to reach this level that we were about to kind of get over that hill, and then but I mean life has a way of making our plans go out the window, and for me it made me arrive to where I am now with food. And
And so that band
um,
doesn't exist anymore right now, or is your brother still doing music? Are you doing any music at all? Or?
um we are kind of separately. So my brother is very busy. He has children and a family, and he's a responsible adult. So but he's recording his own stuff, which I've heard and kind of given my feedback on. It's really fantastic. And for me, the video series I released, I've just done some backgrounds for, which has been wonderful because it's very low stakes. When I was in the process of like writing music, I became quite obsessive about it to the point where it was hard to enjoy. I was so focused on everything being correct that after a point it was hard to enjoy. But now, just um, where I've arrived at now is all the loves of my lives have come together. There's the writing and journalism, there's the food, and now I'm able to create music that sits in this video series I've created, which has been really fun. And that video series, I got to travel around and meet musicians and meet chefs and meet crafters and people doing incredible things around Ireland. So it's I think if those setbacks hadn't occurred, I wouldn't have arrived where I am now, which is nice to pull all those things together, you know?
I guess, yeah, we always have to figure out why certain things happen in our lives, and sometimes there's a reason or we make a reason, I guess.
I think
But
yeah, for me, you make a reason. I'm not a person who believes things happen for a reason. But I think we can. I think I just believe in chaos, but we can find some order in it if we look hard enough.
yes. So tell me, because you mentioned the series now a few times, and that's when I was talking to Valentina, she told me, "Oh, you should reach out to him," because he has this great series, and she sent me a link. So I watched the first episode with Sally, who I've met online a few times, and I bought her fish. It's amazing. So maybe actually I'll let you explain what it is, and then even talk about Sally because I think that's such a great episode. I just love watching her at work, and
Yeah.
but yeah, but tell me about the series. What is it? How is it? Where is it for people to watch it?
So the video series, it was the next kind of step in this project that centers around food, music, and culture in Ireland. So it emerged very naturally from I had toured around Ireland. I had met incredible musicians. I had been down in culinary school. I'd met chefs and crafters and all these people. And I thought I would love to showcase this in a way that I haven't done before. So I had this idea of going around and doing a documentary around Ireland that would showcase uh, creative individuals, let's say. So I went around with some friends of mine who are incredibly talented. There was my sister, Ellen Martin, who's a designer and an artist, and she acted as a kind of art director on the project. There was my friend Louise Morton Murray and her business partner, Michelle Tofi, who have a production company, and they're very, very talented. And between the four of us, we went around to different places. We interviewed people. We sang songs with them. We cooked with them. We got them to share their knowledge with us. And we documented it. And just complete credit to them. They were able to document it in this stunningly beautiful way. I was very obsessed with the idea of, although this is independent, although it's just four friends going around Ireland, I want this to look and sound as professional as possible. So I hired professional sound people when we did music. They handled the visuals, and then yeah, we shot 9 episodes, mostly around the west coast of Ireland, a lot in Cork because it's just like the capital of food, in my opinion, in this country. And as you mentioned, the first episode was with a legend called Sally Barnes in Woodcock Smokery down in West Cork. And Sally has been working with wild fish for her entire life, basically. And she has been campaigning for cleaner oceans. She's been campaigning for cleaner rivers, ocean preservation. She has been a loud voice against, fish farming practices that are not good for the environment. And she's just incredible. She is just this ball of energy, this fountain of knowledge. And in that episode, we covered everything. We covered her knowledge about the environment. We covered her with, which is sad to say, rare now, a wild salmon, how to fillet it, how to break it down, how to smoke it using just salt, just smoke. Practices that are disappearing, unfortunately. How many of us just walk into a supermarket and grab some smoked farmed salmon and call it a day? But to see someone who has this knowledge and then she shares it on camera. And then we topped it off with a group of local singers coming to sing some songs about the ocean in Irish.
Yes.
So for me, it was just like the best time ever, I was just loving it.
Yeah, you looked happy, and you did a great job on the fish, by the way.
Thank
She
you. I have to
she
tell
seemed
you, like,
happy.
I was wearing a lot of hats. It was my first time in front of a camera presenting a show, and then I'm singing with people and I'm cooking to camera. It was stressful.
So tell me about that. Actually, how different is it from real life? Because it's like obviously you're shooting something, but I presume the feeling I get is that it's not crazily produced, right? So it seemed like a fairly natural flow. You guys were chatting, but I'm sure it's still. Do you have to do all the same thing loads of times, or is it more you just keep the camera rolling and then you edit it after finding what's the best stuff? Or
No, it was all very natural. So
Mm.
we'd have 2 or 3 cameras set up and you can cut between it. But I have to say that anything involving talking and interviewing people to me was incredibly natural. It was just having a conversation. I loved it. I was more stressed about the when I was placed in front of the camera and it was like, okay, James, now you're going to cook this thing, and I'm like, my head's down and I'm chopping something, and the producers kept saying, like, you need to look up, you need to talk to the camera. That felt like, and there wasn't that many cooking segments in the end because I still need to get comfortable with it. But what I realized was it wasn't about me at all. It was about me being there to find these stories from people, which is what I love. It's what's natural to me. So all of that was wonderful. It was just the other bits that I still need to kind of get comfortable with. But
and so all of this is done, right? It's shot already because there's only 2 episodes, right? Am I right?
there's 3 out at the moment,
Oh, 3 out. Okay.
and there's another 6 to come out over the
And
course.
where can people watch this?
So we released it on YouTube. We made a YouTube channel, and it's all available on my website, leviathanfood.com. And I think the YouTube channel is just youtube.com/leviathanfood. And yeah, we wanted to make it accessible to everyone. We wanted to do it in a way that we had our own voice. We had our own, it's quite a slow program compared to other things you see. So that might be quite niche. It might, speak to some people and not others, which is fine. There's so much content out there these days. But I didn't want to be constrained by quick cuts and times and someone else's, vision. I wanted to be able to tell these stories in a way that felt, someone like Sally Barnes, she deserves the time to showcase her knowledge. She deserves, you know, the time to see her fielding an entire salmon. So I was happy to keep it as this independent project, so that's why it's up there on YouTube.
And I mean, it's not crazy long, right? It's like 20 minutes or something like that. Am I right?
Yeah, they range from 20 minutes to 35 is the kind
Yeah.
of window that they all are. Yeah.
Which I guess these days is like a epic long compared to what people are used to when they watch food but content, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me it was pretty obvious from like the first shot, that this is a very different pace, and it's something that you sit down and watch. I've actually watched it on the airplane in my one of my recent travels. I
Oh,
usually
good.
download a lot of stuff from my YouTube, and it's the best time that I watch things like that.
Yeah.
Just sitting there. Um, so how did you guys? I'm curious about the production, right? Because you said you're all friends, and you obviously went all in. How did you find the money to do this, or why did you decide to go independent? Did you try to sell it to some people, or I'm just a
I
bit curious about the process.
I kind of half-heartedly shopped it around. I
Mm.
went through the process of sending some emails, and some people, production or like channels or friends of friends said, "Oh, I have a contact," or "Yeah, this sounds interesting. Please come back to us in a few months." You're probably well familiar with like reaching out to work with people, and then sometimes it goes somewhere, and sometimes it involves following up a lot. And I kind of didn't. Yeah, I would describe it as half-heartedly reaching out with the
It's funny. It's
knowledge.
exactly how I would describe me trying to find someone to pull out my records. I'm like, so not want to do it, but I guess you
Yeah,
try.
I suppose I had the knowledge that really I wanted to do this myself anyway, and
Yeah.
I wanted to treat it kind of as a calling card. So maybe in the future, if I want to make more, I'll have something to show people and say, this is how I did it myself and how we've done it independently. But I was happy to kind of for that to be the way. In terms of funding it, if it hadn't been for, my friends giving me friends rates for their incredible work, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Aside from that, I've edited it myself. That's what's taking so long. I had to learn video editing, which I've never done before.
Wow.
Um, the other costs that was involved was literally our petrol and our Airbnbs going around the country. We condensed 9 episodes into 6 or 7 shooting days. So there was times we were in more than one location. We were and looking back at it now, I can't believe it went as well as it did, because in some cases we were arriving at a place we'd never been. They were grabbing their cameras, never met the people we're interviewing, relying on Irish weather, shooting on the go. But like it worked out. I don't know how it worked out so well, but it did.
And did you
Um,
do it in a concentrated period of time?
oh yeah, within 6 or 7 days. Yeah.
Oh my God. So all in one go. It was like a little tour.
All in one go. There was one day we had like a schedule laid out. It was like leave at 6 a.m., drive to the location, jump out, do an interview, do a cooking segment, do a song, get back in the car, drive 2 hours to the next place, do it again, go to an Airbnb, sleep. And yeah, because the production company, and they're called BYOC Films, Bring Your Own Camera. They have this mix of like independent spirit for creation, but they're also incredibly professional. So, and I kind of take that same tactic from, if you're an independent musician in Ireland, you have to learn to be everything. You have to be your own PR. You need to be your own manager. You need to be the musician as well. So it was a very good mix, and that just having those skills is the only thing that allows us to do it, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I I have a little bit of a different experience also because I'm an instrumentalist and I maybe 95% of my work is working for other people. So very often that doesn't quite require as much investment. I do that with my own music, but it's still like a small percentage of what I do in terms of being a professional musician. But even then, you still have to be your own manager and your own day to day and organize everything and reach out to people all the time. So yeah, for sure. And So is this is the is going to live only on YouTube, right? This series, that's the idea for this one,
Yeah, that's the idea for this.
and you're going to just release it over a certain period of time, and
Yeah, the first three episodes they came out back to back every 2 or 3 weeks, and now I'm editing the next ones. Kind of took a little short break for summer because a lot of people travel, and I find like September onwards is a good time to release content. Going back to the album release things as well, like people might wait till after summer. But yeah, it's and then off the back of that, it's kind of fed into the other parts of my project. I'm writing more, and uh, it's just inspired me to kind of create more. And even now, the likes of talking to you, like I'm thinking more about music and how music and food are related. Um, Actually, coming to what you mentioned about your own music, I'm curious because you work with so many people. They're bringing, let's say, a vision or a type of music that they want to create, and you help them sculpt that vision. But when it comes to your own stuff, because you're so knowledgeable in all these other types of music, world music, do you find it hard to kind of hone in on what you actually want to focus on?
I mean, hmm, it's a tricky one, and it goes in phases sometimes. Sometimes I think things just flow. They want to come out and they do. Some other times not. For me, it's interesting because I find that um, when I sit at the piano is the time where everything kind of becomes distilled to a certain extent. Maybe because it's the instrument that I know the best. Um, Something I don't know exactly how to explain it. Feels like sometimes you put so much information inside because I could literally be playing like a baroque opera on harpsichord one day, and then I'm playing with whatever American traditional music, and then
Yeah, exactly.
so there is all this stuff. There is all these languages. For me, they're all languages. Really, it's
Hmm.
like I could be speaking Spanish to these guys and French to these guys. It
Yeah.
feels a little bit similar. Um, but then ultimately, when I sit at the piano, there's like everything that has been inputted somehow comes out as a concentrate. And
Right.
I feel like I can hear the echoes of everything in what
Hmm.
comes out, and that's probably the truest of myself.
Yeah.
Mm. But it's hard to control that process, though. I have to say. I just finished recording an album actually, probably gonna come out next year because I'm doing exactly that thing, very reluctantly sending it to people, going, "Would you be interested?" and getting very lukewarm. It's like it's exactly like what you were saying, 100%. I so know what this is supposed to be, and I'm so not into pushing people
Hmm.
to maybe then do it in a way that is not really the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm very much. I think I know in my head already that it's self-release, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of just making sure that I'm speaking to the people because these days also I don't know how you feel, but with labels is like unless you go for something that is really that big that it kind of gives you a certain amount of visibility because I don't even know what distribution is anymore these days because
Yeah.
physical is mostly sold at gigs in my experience anyway, and online, people order it. So I don't even know that that really matters so much, even though people still talk about it. So at the end, it's just about putting out, you can do it yourself. I've done a lot of releases before on CDs, but this one I actually wanted to be just an LP. I just want to
Yeah.
do a short press of limited edition, really beautifully curated LP, and that's it. And then everything else is online.
I mean, the industry is just changing rapidly on a constant basis. Like for musicians to keep up with it is a lot.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah. And it's crazy how much LPs are selling now. If you look,
yeah,
it's like
they're
insane.
they've taken over.
Completely. And nobody has CD. I give CDs to people and they don't take them because it says I don't have a CD player anymore. Even musicians. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was thinking of that recently. Like when I haven't played a gig now since I think it was 2019 or no 2020 was the last gig. And I'm thinking now, like, yeah, CDs are probably obsolete now because we would have vinyls and
Yeah.
you could tell, but
I also work in I think in fields where the general audience is a little older, so you do still sell some CDs at gigs. Because those people might still have a CD player, but in general, younger people is like forget about it. It's
Yeah.
very, very, very hard. Um, but I love. I mean, just hearing you talk, it's exactly when you're saying that what you're trying to do is basically combine all of these aspects of your life, which is in a way also what I've been trying to do, I suppose, to a certain extent. So I want you to tell me more a little bit about that because we were chatting briefly about these pop-up dinners that you do, right? Because at the moment you're not working in kitchens, right? You're not working in restaurants or something like that.
I do no, not full time. So at the moment, I'm very lucky to divide my time between freelance photojournalism. So I write for magazines, I write for publications, and doing pop-ups. So I do this project called the Dining Club at Whitestown House. And it's this country house out in Knoll in North County Dublin. And we do 2 dinners per month. Usually we've taken a break for the summertime. Our next one's gonna be September. And it's myself and the Keogh family. So my co-chef Kelly Keogh, who I met in culinary school, is incredibly talented chef, and just her knowledge of food is amazing. And it's their family home. Her mum Hazel Keogh lives there, and then her sister Aoife Keogh. Her background is in art and in um, hosting, let's say, to like a very high level. So she creates. We will come up with a theme. So our next theme is going to be Samhain, which is the Irish Halloween,
Yeah.
the folk tradition of where Halloween has actually emerged around the world from these Irish traditions, this pagan festival. So that'll be the next theme. Myself and Kelly will come up with a 7 course tasting menu. I'll research food and folklore and old stories of Ireland to come up with some dishes. Kelly does the same. And then Aoife creates this incredible dining scape, like tablescape in the dining room. And we have 20 guests come into this big house. We have the fires lit. We have harp player, who I need to shout out. Her name is Alana Thornburg. I don't know. Do you know her?
No, she's yes. I don't think I've
She's
ever met her.
incredible. Her album, I've been listening to it nonstop since she released it. So Alana comes, she plays music. We welcome guests with canapes and with cocktails. We explain to them what we're trying to do, that it's this fully immersive experience. They come into the dining room. They all sit around one big antique table. There's this, incredible art installation in the middle of the table. And we just are able to tell a story and give people an experience that keeps it completely fresh for us every single time, completely new menu every time. Um, and yeah, we do that once a month. And then I do other pop-ups and I do other talks. I have a couple now of pop-ups that I've never done before that are going to be announced in the next month or so around Ireland with other chefs that I'm very excited about. But for me, I guess it's the traveling musician mentality. I love going around different places, setting up, telling a story with food, cooking for people, and then going somewhere else. I love doing that.
Yeah, and this sounds amazing. Actually, I need to try to make it down to one of these events
For sure, yeah.
sooner or later. And how does that compare to working in a kitchen for you? Because I understand it's a very different concept, right?
It's a very different concept. It's been a steep learning curve because every menu is different and it's quite bespoke. There's things we try that sometimes we walk away thinking that worked so well. And there's only 2 of us cooking for 40 people because it's 20 per night, 20 on a Friday, 20 on a Saturday. And I guess what people don't realize is there's different ways to cook. If me and you are chefs and we're working in a kitchen, we have a little wine bar and we have 2 people come into a table at 7 p.m. and then we have a table of 4 at 7:30 p.m. We can stagger the food, but if it's me and you cooking for 20 people and 7 dishes need to be ready all at the same time, times 20, it's a different way.
Mm.
You can't be serving something where by the time you've plated up the 20th dish, the first one is ice cold. And if you fried it, it's soggy, and you have to think in there's a number of, and this was actually why I was asking you about how you approach music when you have such a vast knowledge of it. For me, someone like yourself who has knowledge of all, say, world music and these different types, it's kind of the same as being in the supermarket and being surrounded by every type of food you can think of that
Yeah.
might not be in season in Ireland, but it's been imported from somewhere else. For me, the first thing I do to rein in all these ideas is to think, well, what's actually in season here? What is growing locally? And what will be good and what will make sense at this time of year? And then the next part is what makes sense for the menu. And then the next part is what can I actually feasibly cook as one chef out of two for 20 or 40 people? And the same as with music, all those constraints are actually helpful, because otherwise you're just, floating in a sea of anything is possible, and I might drown in that sea if I'm not careful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for me, bringing it back to the music, I mean, there is a lot of intuition that comes with experience, which I'm sure is exactly the same thing, you know. Sometimes it's effortless. Sometimes it's, I mean, I try not to, one thing that I hate in projects, especially in fusiony crossover projects, is the contrived feeling of, oh my God, let's combine sitar and drum kit. You know, this kind of thing that you go like, it's a cool concept, but like, for me, it all starts from imagination, you know? So what sparks imagination is very often just hearing in my head a sound. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this reminds me of this. I wonder, you know, and I'm sure with food is the same, because sometimes I feel when I put something in my mouth, I go like, you know, I think this could actually work with that, even though they're not supposed to
Yeah.
be on the same plate, you know? But it all comes from experience, right? Imagination and experience, at least for me, I feel. And obviously, you know, there is a lot of technical limitation, which is what you are describing, right? If you're saying I'm cooking for 20 people, I can't just do whatever I want. I have to figure out something that can function within this structure. And at the same time, that makes also sense conceptually, right? Because you're
Yeah.
saying it makes sense. Limitations can help. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, there is a comparison to that. And,
And the
but I
thing
just,
with food and music again is that you mentioned, I suppose, the contrived nature of it.
mm,
You can try to force an idea just to be interesting or just to be edgy or just to be different, but it has to have something at its core that works, whether that's just something natural and unexpected, or whether it's, I think with food and with music, people can resonate with what is legitimate and real. Um, so like a song that has a guitar that is a bit loose and a bit folky and a bit has soul and life in it. I think people can pick up on that the same way they can pick up on food that's been made with love, and not just, for me, the best food isn't Michelin star, everything looks like a portrait. I mean, I can really respect and appreciate that food, but it's not the food I want to eat every day.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, like, just again with music, all these things you're mentioning, like taking one instrument and another instrument and trying to fuse them together. It's the same as like taking ingredients, but not thinking about why I'm trying to combine them.
that's the thing, you know? And it's like ultimately, technique can allow you to do so much, but it's the same in music, you know, and it's the same in the culinary world. It's like you can admire technique, but like if the thing underneath it is not really solid. I mean, for me, I'm very emotional when it comes both to food and to music. You know, if I feel like I can admire technicians because I'm a professional musician, and these days, just because I've been watching food so much, I can admire technique there too. You know, I can admire
Yeah.
the skill and the technique even behind Michelin star. You know, whatever experiences. But ultimately, if I'm not moved, I I go like, yeah, this was cool, but you know, that's it.
Yeah.
I want to feel something, and very often I think that's the core of what you're doing, you know, and what the
Yeah.
chef or the musician is trying to say, and also very often there's the story behind it, right? There's a story that ties to why did they do this? Why did they make it up this dish? Or
That's the thing. There's a story behind every plate of food and every song, and that's what ultimately gives me the feeling that I don't like. People have asked me since I stopped touring, like, "Oh, do you miss it?" I say yes and no. I don't miss it because I get the same feeling from thinking of a plate of food in my head, thinking of what would work, creating it, and then giving it to someone and seeing their reaction. I get the same feeling, and the story can be as simple as I want to sustain you. I care about you. I want you to feel good. I want you to feel happy. And then when you work in, you mentioned earlier about the transition of instruments and music to different cultures and food being the same. Like, I couldn't agree with that more. Like, food and music are, we can talk about them in this very intellectual way, and we can make these correlations between, oh, this peasant dish in this country is the same as this peasant dish in this country, and it must have been that people moved here and there, and I can see the differences and the similarities. And you can do the same with music, whether it's instruments traveling across time and space. But the other side of it is, you can set all that aside and just, if I smell something in a other country, I don't need any other thing to know that I want to know more about it. If I hear a melody in another country, I don't need any other thing. Yes, I can make all these correlations and think, oh, that reminds me of Irish music, and oh, the Celtic music in Galicia and Asturias, that reminds me of Irish music. But that's not necessary to just, on a human level, think, that sounds good. I want to hear that. That smells good. That looks good. I want to taste that. And I think that's the best
yeah,
thing about it.
for sure. And it's also like, these days I reflect a lot about it because there is so much hatred towards the different, and talking about immigrations and whatever, and just realizing that I find that music and food are the two most direct ways to actually connect to people that you have nothing in common with in theory,
Yeah.
because literally you could walk into someone's home, and if they made you food, that is like the most connecting and love giving act that anyone can do. And the other one is music. I find that, you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
can totally understand a culture or a people just by listening to their music if you're thrown into it, right? But
absolutely.
understanding it in a direct way, not in, like you said, an intellectual way, going, this is that, and this is this.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there are that many other things that have such a direct. You don't need to speak I mean, it's such a universal language. I know it's a cliche, but it feels a little bit like it's a language that anyone can relate to. Really,
It's not just a language, it's inescapable. Like, I can go off into the wilderness somewhere. I'm not going to escape the sounds of birds singing and bringing music to me, or the wind. I'm not going to escape like berries growing or edible flowers. Like, it goes beyond just this human connection. It's something we cannot escape on a fundamental level of what we are as people or as beings on this planet. And I think, like, yeah, to bring it towards connection is a great thing. Like, when I travel the world, working for Lonely Planet, is like, people would say, like, oh, how do you connect with the people? I would just say, ask them about their food. Just ask them about, what do you like to eat? What is that? And most people will light up and want to tell you about it.
that's the thing. I think if they don't, then there's something really strange about them.
Yeah, you don't want to talk to those people.
Like people who are not into food or into music, they can't be right.
I've met a few in my time, and yeah, there's something up with them. If you meet someone, they're like, I don't really like music, and just kind of back away slowly.
It's like, what? I don't
Yeah.
like food and I don't like music. No, that's not my vibe. But okay, so let me just ask you a couple more questions because I mean, we could chat the whole day. It's a lot of interesting stuff. Um, I'm curious because I feel like I've been living in Ireland, or at least being based in Ireland. I'm away a lot, as you know, for 20 years at this stage, nearly.
Wow.
I feel like I've seen, and not all of these 20 years I've been so much into food as I've been in the last, whatever, 5 or 6, So I think maybe I wasn't even looking around that much, but I feel like the scene has changed quite dramatically.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you agree. I mean, is that a thing, or what's happened to
No,
Ireland?
it's definitely a thing. I remember I was talking to someone recently about this when I was a teenager. I was 16 or 17. Me and my friends, our favorite thing to do on the weekend was to get the train into town and go to Subway to get a sandwich because it was like exotic for us at the time. When you think about the time, I don't want to give my age away. I'm not that old, but it hasn't been a long time since then. Um, we have every type of cuisine now, and every type of cuisine, almost every type of cuisine, done to a very high level. Um, and when you look at Ireland's food culture and history, it's very complicated. Um, when people ask me about Irish food, like, is Irish food good? I always say we probably have the best produce available in the world. We have a deep food knowledge and appreciation, but because of our distinct history, maybe we don't have as many iconic dishes that would have been that other countries would have, let's say.
Mm.
And that comes from, I think, not just what happened during the potato famine in Ireland, but I was reading a food history book. If you think of about a lot of the foods that are synonymous with countries, it's about making things last. So, like even Italian pasta or like Scandinavian pickles, it's about working up to a time when there might not be an abundance. And it's funny, Ireland pre the famine was a place of abundance. It was this island nation where we had beef, we had access to oceans, we had fresh dairy. So I think it's a combination of not needing to get things prepared for a harsh winter. We had things available to us, and then suddenly, almost overnight, there being nothing available to us, which was interesting. But when you bring that forward to now, um, it's maybe taken us a bit of time to catch up, but we certainly have. And I think with globalization, with how rapidly now travel is available to everyone and how relatively cheap it is compared to the past, we have been informed by other places and we're embracing their culture and we're embracing their food, and so many talented Irish chefs bringing ideas back here, establishing restaurants. So for such a small country, I'm incredibly proud of what we can offer here. I'm very excited about what it means for the future of our country.
Absolutely. Because, people often ask me from Italy or from abroad, because they seem to make a joke about it, go like, oh, sure, it's not great for food. I'm like, actually, it is. I mean, it's like, it's a complicated conversation, and I honestly feel like I don't know enough about the history of Irish food. I also feel like that there is a whole colonial conversation to be made, that I think there is probably a whole history behind that, like you were saying. I know that books are coming out these days that talk about in a much deeper way, because I don't know. What I find interesting, because I lived in a few different other places as well. Before I lived in the Netherlands, for example, and I remember being struggling so much over there, and that had to do with the way people conceived food there. So there was a very different mindset. I come from a place, as you know, Italy, where the average person is so obsessed about food and so emotionally attached to food,
Yeah.
that it's like not talking and thinking about food all the time is weird.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
kind of a weirdo if you don't do that, basically.
Yeah.
And in Holland, it felt like the majority of people I met, they just ate to survive. It was like the bare minimum to survive. There wasn't an investment in the passion of like in the act of eating, and that was really hard. But when I moved to Ireland, apart from the fact that when I first moved, I felt like going back to Italy, because there were so many similarities with the fact that everyone is late, nothing works. But,
Yeah. Absolutely.
there was a mindset that was felt so familiar around it. People like to hang out and,
Yeah.
party and stuff like that. I felt I felt in a way that, there was also maybe like the story you said about the subway. I felt like maybe people didn't have that experience direct, but at the same time, they were very open to it. That
Yeah.
everyone was like, I've been there and I ate this. Oh my God, I love this. Or, that there was actually a passion for it, and that people were thirsty. I mean, hungry, I guess, for it. For
Yeah.
and I think in a way it's not surprising that it's in this amount of time where all of a sudden there was like an explosion, or it feels like it went really quick. From that even 20 years ago to today, the level of the food and the level of appreciation that there is for the food. And like you said, also, that's what I always tell people. Like, you don't understand. It's like Ireland is the best place in the world for produce. There's like the beef, the dairy is incredible, and so much stuff grows. Of course, it's like the greenest place ever. And I mean, it was interesting also to hear in your documentary Sally give out about the fishing situation. The fact that so much of the local fish cannot be actually sold and
Mm.
fished by Irish folks. But there is just so much that can be done, and every time I'm out, even in Dublin, I'm excited to discover new restaurants. And I'm going, oh, this looks really interesting. So it's definitely a story that I'm curious to see where it goes. Where do you think it's going to go? Like Irish food.
Um, I'm. I think that the current trend of embracing other food cultures and other cuisines is reaching an apex, maybe. When you kind of see it in trends, like when everything is available to us, I think, and you're seeing it in music now in Ireland, there's this turning back towards Irishness. And I have to be careful how I talk about this because even in Ireland, there's these weird, like, far right things emerging of like,
Yeah,
I think embracing your own culture while also being open to other cultures is a beautiful thing. But like, you see it in like the likes of Fontaine's and Kneecap and Lancome and this
yeah,
explosion of Irish, like, young people, it's cool to learn Irish, to speak Irish. It's cool to know about your history. It's really sought out. And I think that's wonderful. And I think there's people like Sally Barnes or JP McMahon down in Galway
yeah.
who have been talking about Irish food for years. And it's funny that it's kind of the hipster thing. People are now like, oh, this is really trendy. Like, tell me more about Irish food and Irish products and Irish produce that would have been foraged back in a time when foraging food was considered a shameful thing, because you couldn't afford other things. I think it's beginning to come full circle where Irish people we're shaking off a little bit of that colonized shame, and we're kind of standing up a bit and saying, what we have here is really wonderful and I want to learn more about it and I want to present it to other people. So I think that's going to emerge over the next few years. I think people are going to lean more into Irishness and what that means, and even tracing back older recipes, which, again, like, this isn't a very new thing. People have been doing this. The likes of Assassination Custard are doing lots of interesting collabs at the moment since kind of closing or semi closing up. And they've been presenting things like tripe to people.
I love those guys. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and because also their food is so Italian influences as well. They
Yeah.
present a lot of that kind of stuff. It's very nice chats. Just for people who don't know, Assassination Custard is this. I mean, I don't even know how to define it. Is it a pop-up restaurant? Is it open sometimes? You don't really know exactly when it's going to be open.
Yeah, they open when they feel like it, I think.
They open for lunch these days, some midweek days, but you have to kind of look at their socials. And then even when they announce they open, you have to call. It's just like literally, it's almost, I love the fact that it almost feels like they don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to cook some food, whether you're there or not, it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. You know, I love that format. I know it's hard. We were having a chat about it. I'm sure it's
Mm.
hard for them, to keep it going, but I just love the attitude as well. Sorry, you were saying about,
No, it's just like, I think there's been people shouting about these things for a long time, and I think there's many reasons why us as Irish people have maybe avoided the conversation about what Irish food is and what it means to us. But I think that's beginning to change more. I mean, on a mainstream level, like, again, there's been chefs and creators and people talking about this for a long time, but it's wonderful to see. So there's that side of it, and then there's the difficulty of the restaurant industry at the moment and what that means. So I think there'll be lots of interesting things happening in the future, but it'll be difficult as well for people, for sure.
Yeah, I see a lot of places are opening up all the time, especially Dublin. I don't know how it is elsewhere, but I wonder, I wonder how easy it is to survive for all these places. Um, One more question, just because you said something earlier that you said about Cork being the food place. I don't know if you're going to get in trouble for this.
The Dublin people will come after me.
Exactly. Why is that? Why is Cork the food place, you think?
Um, well, again, it comes back to the question, I guess, of migration and how wonderful a thing that is. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of people who kind of ended up in Cork, and it still kind of happens. There was cheesemakers bringing their knowledge from other places, um, combining that with the incredible local produce, like you're just set for a win. Um, Producers, like, definitely in terms of cheese, like Kool-Aid Mature is one of my favorite cheeses that you can get. And then the
Yeah, that's
golden
the other thing.
Ballon.
I don't know if people know this, but like cheese in Ireland is amazing. There's some really amazing cheesemakers. So I don't know
Yeah.
how available it is for, from the outside, but
Yeah.
definitely amazing producers.
And then I think going back in history, Cork as a kind of harbour location, I know things like spiced beef were prepared in Cork Harbour to be exported, usually to England. There was just historically, there was a lot of growers and farmers and makers there producing things, and that has come forward to modern times. There's still incredible artisans there, whether it's bakers or cheesemakers or people working with, high welfare meat, um, avoiding these mass produced farming techniques. So I think it's just, yeah, there's something magic in Cork. And whenever I go to Cork, you're guaranteed to have an interesting food experience.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't been there in a while. I'm kind of planning some trips. I want to go and visit also Dede, that restaurant in Porto.
Yeah, I've heard incredible things about.
Yeah, me too. I keep seeing going like, oh my God, I would love this so much. Just looking and actually, what's your favorite restaurant in Ireland, if you have one?
My favorite restaurant in Ireland. Oh, you really want to get me in trouble. Um, I would probably say the Glass Curtain in Cork. Um, it's a place I've been a few times, and for me, it is the perfect food being presented in a way that isn't overly contrived.
Mm.
It looks beautiful. You want to eat it. The flavors just knock you out. The service is incredible. It's probably, yeah, one of my favorite spots I've been to, and it's been consistently good.
I've actually never been there, but I've seen it and we'll keep
Yeah.
it. But I wanted to tell people if they want to ask some questions, now is the time because I think we're going to try to wrap it up. Let me see if there was something from before. There were a couple of comments just about CDs. Both Valentina and Jules were saying that they have external CD drives. That's great. And that they support artists. Thank you for support from buying CDs. We used to have this joke with Rhiannon Giddens, whom I worked with for many years. She used to sell CDs and have a spiel, on stage saying that they were coasters, so that you can buy them to put your drinks on, and then you can listen to this album on Spotify. but but anyway, let me see. So people, whoever is there, if you have some questions, put them on now. Otherwise, I think we might try to wrap it up. But it's great chatting with you. I mean, we could totally.
Yeah, we can talk for days, I'm sure, about just food and music. And yeah, as you say, the evolution of CDs and then tapes came back for a while and they disappeared again, and now vinyl seems to be here to stay. It's funny how these things are cyclical, and
Yeah, and there is a certain element of, like you were saying, also a little bit. It's cool and hip now to buy the records and have a player, and listen to music that way. And I mean, it is a very different experience. I have a record player too, even though I mostly only buy jazz from the 50s and the 60s on record is something that I really love about that experience,
Yeah, I think like the big thing about it is it brings us back to consciously doing something, like to
Mm.
rather than in the space of 1 second on Spotify or on a streaming service going from, jazz to pop, you have to think, what am I in the mood for? It was like back in lockdown when we were talking about food and cooking. You have to ask yourself, what do I want to listen to? I'm going to go through my vinyl collection. I'm going to pick it out. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put the needle on. It kind of brings us back to the present, which I think is a great thing because it's so easy for us to just be consuming things, whether it's food or music, just constantly and not actually thinking through the process. So I think that's the best thing about vinyl is it brings your
Yeah.
attention to the present.
And also after 20 minutes, you have to go or whatever, change the side. And it's like you
Yeah.
can't just really let it go completely. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. You're present for us.
And do you put on music when you cook?
I do. I have a cooking playlist on my Spotify, which has gone, and I hate mentioning Spotify. I view it as
Yeah.
a necessary evil, but um, it's gotten out of control. I think it's something like 47 hours long. It's like I'm so obsessed with making playlists that I made a cooking playlist where if you listen from the start to the finish, you'll see a transition through all these genres. But I also wanted it so that if you put on shuffle, all the songs will make sense back to back. So that's the
Wow.
type of person I am. Obviously, have no life.
And what about in the pop-ups? I'm sure you curate the music too. Oh no, there is live music, you said, right?
There's live music when people arrive, but then when they go into the dining room, I curate playlists every time. So like for the sound one, I have all Irish folk music. Uh, I wanted just even sitting in the background, I wanted to play into this vibe of what the dishes are, what the tablescape is, what the mood is, and it's such an integral part of the experience. So yeah, I put a lot of work into that as well.
Yeah, I lament the fact that so many times in really high-end restaurants, the music is the one thing that nobody gives a shit about.
It's fascinating when you go into a restaurant and the music is like completely
If you think about how much energy and money is spent on every single detail, and then they just put on some Spotify playlist that
yeah.
someone like whatever put on, and you're going, what the? How is that a thing?
Yeah, that's the confusing thing. And like even taking that idea further, I've been thinking recently about like I wonder has anyone done this concept where they've tailored a tasting menu to an album.
Mm.
Um, there's an album that was released last week by Talos, Own French,
Yeah,
which I've played on repeat for the last week, just constantly every day. For people who don't know Talos or Own French, an incredibly talented Irish musician who passed away far, far too young, very
yeah.
recently. And his new album called The Dawning is beautiful. And I'm just in this phase at the moment where I'm kind of listening to it and I'm focusing on the lyrics and music. And I just keep seeing and tasting dishes that would translate to it. Like there's one he talks about kind of been changed by fire, and I'm just thinking in my head like, oh, what if you torch this? And like, so for me, I can't I can't fathom like a restaurant not caring about the music that they're don't.
That's such a great idea. I'm so imagining it in my head right now that because I know that some restaurants would have a curated playlist, but you're doing the other way around. You're making a menu on an album. That's fucking brilliant. I want to
Yeah.
go to that restaurant right now.
Gave my idea away now. Someone's going to do it, but yeah, like I think they're so closely linked. I think
Yeah.
it's inescapable.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to leave it on that note. I'm going to go away with this imagination of such a brilliant thing. Let me know if you do it. I definitely want to come.
Okay, I will. I will.
Well, thanks very much. Let's maybe remind people if they want to catch your pop up. Where do they find the information on that?
If they go to Whitestown House, just Google Whitestown House, and all the dates are there. But
And
the
that's just north of Dublin, not west of Dublin. What is it?
north of Dublin, it's in a village called Knoll.
Oh,
Uh,
no, yes, exactly. That's where you live.
but to find anything, if they go to Leviathan Food, or if they um, look up Leviathan, it has all the details. for the video series, for my pop-ups, for my writing. It's all there.
Yeah, so the series as well. Someone here is asking, would you please say the name of the artist you listen to, and we can, I'll repeat.
Yeah, so the artist is Talos, Talos.
Yeah,
And the new album, which was put together posthumously, is called A Dawning, and I can really recommend it.
yeah. I never met him. I have a lot of friends who work with him, and I remember hearing about it. And so, of course, everyone is talking about it since
Yeah,
it's been out, the record.
yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you. It's been
We'll,
fun.
I'm sure we'll see each other
I hope
for
so.
sure.
I hope so.
And maybe we can have another chat soon. That will be cool too. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And for the people who didn't tune in, we'll send this to the followers, and hopefully people will enjoy this conversation.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.